Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So we're reading chapter 14, text 14. Chapter 14 is the three modes of material nature. We'll do the Sanskrit part first. Yada sattve pravridetu pralayam yati dehabrit tadota atma vidam lokan amalan pradipatyate. Anyone would like to read? Anyone would like to try? It doesn't matter if you can't do it, just try. Anyone else? Okay, we'll do word for word. Yada, when. Sattve, the mode of goodness. Pravride, developed. Tu, but. Palayam, dissolution. Yati, goes. Dehabrit, the embodied. Tada, at that time. Uttama vidam, the great sages. Lokan, the planets. Amalan, pure. Pradipatyate, attains. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. Please repeat after me. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One in goodness attains higher planetary systems like Brahmaloka or Janaloka, and there enjoys godly happiness. The word amalan is significant. It means free from the modes of passion and ignorance. There are impurities in the material world, but the mode of goodness is the purest form of existence in the material world. There are different kinds of planets for different kinds of living entities. Those who die in the mode of goodness are elevated to the planets where great sages and great devotees live. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. Most people tend not to find this chapter interesting. I find it intriguing. Krishna mentions the three modes of material nature many times in the Bhagavad Gita, and therefore it must be important, or else he would not say in verse 1 of this chapter, "Again I declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection." In the purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada says, this knowledge is far, far superior to all other processes of knowledge thus far explained. And it is expected that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection. So you see, understanding the three modes of material nature is really important. When the modes are mentioned elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, they are always in relation to the living entity, becoming attached to the material energy or being conditioned by the material energy. And from the karma yoga point of view, we know that attachment to material energy always leads to bondage. If one remains in bondage, then one also remains in samsara, or the cycle of birth and death. So an intelligent person would ask a logical question. How do I become detached from this material energy? And a common answer to the question would be, follow the various yoga systems that Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita. That answer is of course correct, but one with an analytical mind would ask the question, what is material energy and how is it affecting me? And that to me is why Krishna is explaining about the modes in detail in this chapter. We know from Bhagavad Gita 7:14, where Krishna says that the material energy is his own divine energy or his external energy. Devisha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prabhadyante maya metam tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So then, the question is, where does these modes of material nature come from? It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that the modes are present in the process of creation of this universe, in the total material substance called the Mahat Tattva. That means that everything in this universe, including us, also has these three modes within them. Krishna also says early in this chapter 14 that he impregnates this material energy with souls, and therefore he is known as the seed-giving father to all species of life. When these living entities come into this universe, they are all conditioned by these three modes. So what are the three modes of material nature? The three modes of material nature are very unique and illuminating concept of Vedic philosophy, which describe and explain the functioning of material nature based on three influences or subtle forces called goodness or sattva, passion or rajas, and ignorance or tamas. They permeate everywhere and affect all aspects of this material world. The mode of goodness relates to happiness, being wise, and having spiritual knowledge. The mode of passion relates to being active, to satisfy one's unlimited desires. And the mode of ignorance relates to madness, laziness, sleep, and no interest in spiritual life. So you can see that the modes are all pervasive. They are also sometimes called ropes because they bind us and all living entities to the material world. The pervasive nature of the modes means that our lifestyle, attitude, and behaviors also fall under the domain and influence of these modes. Thus, they determine our sense of happiness and well-being in life. Every human being is unique because every person's psychophysical nature, which originates from the previous lives, is unique to them. And to a large extent, it's based on the three modes because the modes are within us all the time. How these modes interact with the psychophysical nature results in the person's behavior being unique to them. This is why we are all different. It also means that each one of us has a different quantity of each of the three modes. Krishna says that the three modes within us compete for supremacy. So every day and at different times, one mode will be prominent and defeat other modes. For example, all of you are here because at the moment you are primarily operating in the mode of goodness, and therefore you have some desire for spiritual knowledge or understanding. Krishna says that when you are operating in the mode of passion, then you will have symptoms of great attachment or engage in intense activity to satisfy your various needs or desires. And when one is operating in the mode of ignorance, there is inactivity or madness or criminal or evil behavior. So you can see that any activity we perform can be classified in terms of the three modes of material nature or a combination of the three. And therefore, the results of our actions in this and future lives are influenced by the three modes, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 3:27, which says, Prakrute kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The spirit so bewildered by the influence of false ego thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. In other words, material nature is in control, and in turn, material nature works under the direction of Krishna. It is important to note that whilst the material nature implements our thoughts into practice, it is our thoughts in the mind that are in effect the cause of our sufferings and enjoyments in this world. In other words, our mind is our best friend or our worst enemy. If every action can be classified in terms of the three modes or their combination, then we can also classify the last moments of our lives. The last moments inevitably leads to death. That itself is not so important, because that is simply a point of termination, or when the soul leaves the body. What is important are the last moments of our lives. It is important because Bhagavad Gita 8.5 says, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati sa madbhavam yati nast yatra samshayaha. Which means, and whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this, he says, there is no doubt. And furthermore, in the next verse, Krishna says, 8.6, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tat tyatyatya ante kale varam tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. Which means, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So you can see clearly how important it is to remember Krishna somehow or other in our last moments of our lives. Because if we don't do that, we will have no idea where our soul will take birth again. It could take birth in any of the 8.4 million species of life, as conditioned soul continuously passes through different species according to his karma. This is because the stringent laws of nature will force the soul to take another body. As Bhagavad Gita 2.22 says, Vasamsi jirani yatha vihaya navani grinati naro parani tatha sharirani vihaya jiranya anyani samyati navani dehi. Which means, as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Out of fear or being a morbid subject, most people generally do not talk about death or consider death in their lives seriously. So they do not know what they will do in their last moments of their lives. Now, dear devotees, here is a very important point to note. What one does in the last moments before death is a direct reflection of what one has done throughout their lives. That means if you have generally spent most of your life with your mind in God consciousness, only then it is likely that you will be able to think of Krishna in your last moments. On the other hand, if most of your life is spent in the pursuit of sense enjoyments, then it is very unlikely that you will be able to think of Krishna in your last moments. Therefore, it is clear that what you do throughout your life will determine what you do in your last moments, and what you do in your last moments will determine what sort of body you will get in your next life. Having understood that, it means we have to try our best to spend our lives in the mode of goodness so that we make progress in our spiritual journey. That leads us to today's verse, where Krishna says that in the event that a person dies when he is operating on the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. The planets of great saints and sages is Janaloka, and higher than that is Satya or Brahmaloka, the abode of Brahma. These planets are in the topmost parts of the upper planetary system, where pure souls enjoy the highest state of spiritual happiness available in the material universe, where it is free from material sufferings. As Prabhupada says in the purport, to reach this planet, one has to be free from the modes of passion and ignorance. The mode of goodness is a prerequisite to understand principles of God consciousness, and therefore yoga cannot be performed successfully without one being primarily in the mode of goodness. As Prabhupada has mentioned planetary systems, it is worth taking a brief look at them. Srimad Bhagavatam says that the universe is divided into 14 planetary systems. The 7 upper planetary systems, each one above the other, are Bhuvarloka, which is where we are, then Bhurloka, which is where we are, then Bhuvarloka, Swargaloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satya or Brahmaloka. The 7 lower planetary systems, each one below the other, are Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. Those souls who are highly developed in the mode of goodness are promoted to the heavenly planets, where the demigods live, and even to the higher planets, whilst those who are engrossed by the mode of passion are situated in the middle planetary system, like Earth and similar planets. But those who are engrossed in the mode of ignorance are degraded to the lower or hellish planetary systems or to the animal kingdom. We have already seen that it is important to be aware of what activities we do now, because the 3 modes of material nature are all pervasive and entangling, so much so that they have a direct impact on where we take birth in our next life through reactions of karma. We also looked at the importance of the need to be in the mode of goodness to really understand God, and that living a life in this mode leads to being promoted to higher planetary systems. Having said that, there is an important issue to consider here. The verse says, a pure soul attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages upon leaving the body. It means that one must have led a pure life, performing activities in the mode of goodness or sattva guna. To go to the higher planets, is of course auspicious, but that lifestyle will inevitably come to an end one day, either because his material piety is exhausted or the planetary system itself is destroyed. It also has to be their own desire to pursue spiritually in this particular way. But for a devotee of the Lord, this is not good enough, because a devotee's ultimate destination is the abode of Krishna, where life is eternal and where one continues his devotional service. All of the three planetary systems are in the material world, and by definition, they will all be destroyed one day. In this regard, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 8.16, Abrahma bhuvana loka punar avritinor mame upetya tu kaunteya punar janma na vidyate, which means from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So you see, birth and death is everywhere in this material universe, even in the topmost planet of Brahma. But the devotee's realization through Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra is that their ultimate destination is the eternal abode of Krishna, who says in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. Which means, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. It is of course the case that not everybody wants to worship Krishna in the way of Krishna consciousness, as shown by Srila Prabhupada. So some people can and will worship other demigods. But even then, Krishna gives a categorical assurance in Bhagavad Gita 7.23 that devotees will reach his own planet, where he says, Antavatu phalam tesham tadbhavatya alpa medasam devan devo yajo yanti mad bhakta yanti mamapi. Which means men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme abode. As I've said earlier, that to be in the mode of goodness is a prerequisite to understand God consciousness. But that is not the end. Why? Because the mode of goodness is still a material mode. And to go back to Godhead, one has to transcend this material platform to the level of the mode of pure goodness, or Shuddha Sattva, which is a transcendental platform. Krishna talks about this transcendental platform in Bhagavad Gita 18.54, where he says, Brahma bhuta prasanatma na shochati na kangshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. Which means, one who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. When we perform devotional service in the mode of pure goodness, only then will we be able to leave this material world behind and go back to Godhead. But of course, the onus is on us to follow Krishna consciousness with strong faith, determination, discipline, and enthusiasm. I said at the beginning that I find this chapter intriguing. Why? Because I want to know by what process the modes affect us, moment to moment in our lives, so that we can foresee and forestall actions that will be detrimental to our spiritual progress. In other words, if we can avoid the lower modes by understanding how they work and influence us, then we can successfully cultivate the mode of goodness, which will make us eligible to succeed on our path of self-realization. Perhaps this is one reason why Krishna says at the start of the chapter that this knowledge of the modes is supreme wisdom. And Prabhupada says in the purport that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection. Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Does anybody have any comments, their own realizations, or even questions? I'm just a beginner in this subject, so I will respond in my own simple way. But there are senior devotees here present who will explain in detail. Yes, Prabhuji.
You said about mode of goodness changes daily, fluctuates with goodness, with passion, and so on. What is it that keeps mode of goodness constant or more often prevailing rather than the other modes? What is it that maintains that more frequently?
To an extent, as I said, everybody is different. It is the combinations of the modes that are present when they're born that gives the variegatedness in this universe, meaning that everybody is different. No, everybody is unique. And because of the combinations of the three modes, everybody has a certain predominant mode. Of course, there are other modes present. And it is the predominant mode that will generally come to the fore in most cases. So somebody who is in the mode of sattva, or who prefers philosophy or spiritualism, will generally tend to behave in that way. But of course, sometimes even a person like that will fall down during the day. Sometimes, if he's not careful, he becomes angry and behave in a mode of passion or ignorance. So all the time, the three modes are fighting within each other.
Could it be related to the extent of goodness, the activity of goodness done in your previous life? So therefore, at the time of death, you are dying in a mode of goodness. When you next start, you're already starting from a state which has got a lot of goodness in it.
Yes.
So then, of course, the frequency of death is continuing.
Yes.
In this life.
But then you have to, as I said, the devotional service is to progress your spiritual journey, so that most of the actions that you do during the day or throughout your lives is in the mode of goodness. Because it's only in the mode of goodness that you will be able to understand spirituality or God consciousness. Of course, as I said at the end, mode of goodness is still a material platform. We need to progress and to go on to spiritual platform. Yes. Yeah.
Spiritual master knows the nature of every individual, and according to the individual nature, he engages in the Krishna service.
But there has to be an endeavor.
See the thing, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If someone is going towards the endeavor,
Yes.
Krishna is in the heart, and he'll send the spiritual master to guide them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Reading is one thing, but there has to be an endeavor. Without endeavor, it's not going to work.
Because there's a quote by Bhaktivedanta Manor, he says that without the supersoul mind, one cannot understand the instruction of Shiksha and Ikshadu. So both have to be there, Guru and Krishna.
Yes. Guru and Krishna.
One is not one.
No.
If one just accepts Krishna, not Guru, then one will become a Sahaya, he take things cheaply. If one just accepts Guru, not Krishna, he will become a Mayavadi.
Yes.
So both have to be there.
We also have to follow the process as well. The process of Krishna consciousness Srila Prabhupada has given us. Reading books, chanting, 4 regular principles, association of devotees. We have to do all of that together, not individually. But we have to do it with faith, strong faith, determination, discipline, and most of all, be enthusiastic about it.
There was an interesting incident with Giriraj Swami. This is when he was serving Srila Prabhupada in Mumbai, the Jew temple when the construction was taking place. So Giriraj Swami, he didn't get time to read Srimad Bhagavatam. He had a desire to read Srimad Bhagavatam, but he didn't get time to read it because he was engaged in services. So Srila Prabhupada knew his desire. Prabhupada told him one time, by serving the person Bhagavad, automatically the knowledge of the book Bhagavad gets manifested. So same thing with Lord Chaitanya's secretary, Swarup Damodar. Anyone who wanted to see Lord Chaitanya, he would tell them, you get guidance from a person Bhagavad. And in this way you get the mercy of the book Bhagavad.
Yes. Thank you.
He's asking, you're serving the person Bhagavad, and you get automatically Bhagavatam's knowledge from the person.
If you serve them,
You serve them.
then the knowledge will manifest to you.
But that person you are serving, presumably is a very elevated soul.
Yeah, this is the point. He has come in line of parampara.
Yeah, but it's elevated as well, yeah?
Obviously, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Any other thoughts, comments, realizations?
So this is why 3 things have to be there. Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Just like a train runs on 2 lines, spiritual life runs on 3 lines of authority. Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So the Shastra is a balance, checking balance. You can read Shastra and you can see how the spiritual master is following Shastra, Sadhu is following Shastra. But then, by seeing that, you're serving them, then the knowledge which is in the Shastra will get revealed to you.
Yes.
That's a mystery in spiritual life. The mystical, how Krishna reveals things to you.
Thank you.
Prabhupada gave an argument one time. He said, the modern scientists haven't discovered the television in the heart. Sanjay could see the battle of Kurukshetra. He was in Delhi. Kurukshetra is 4 hours from Delhi. But he could see the battlefield happening.
Yes.
Right? The Prabhupada said modern scientists haven't discovered this television in the heart. So that television in the heart gets manifested by serving the person Bhagavad.
Indeed. Indeed.
Isn't that true? I read somewhere that the fact that Sanjay could see such a long distance where the Kurukshetra battle was being fought, that he was given special spiritual eyes to see. By Vyasadeva.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Prabhupada gives it like that. He says, by the mercy of spiritual master, you get a television heart manifest to you. Interesting how Prabhupada puts it.
Yes.
So there was television in those days, spiritual television.
Hare Krishna.
One more question, if there is nobody to ask.
Oh, please do.
When you mentioned that you go past the mode of goodness and you go into pure goodness, or crossing over into the transcendental platform, so someone who is crossed that and got into transcendental platform, and presumably because he's got no other desires, material desires, his only desires to serve Krishna, to please Krishna, and that transcendental level. So that person of purity, which goes beyond the mode of goodness in the material modes.
Yes.
So do we assume then that such a person, mode of, the three modes don't apply there? He doesn't encounter those modes then?
No, we can call him, we've used the word in our Sangha, Jivan Mukta. The person, such a person who is beyond the mode in the Brahmabhuta platform, he has transcended the material mode, but his performance looks like just an ordinary person, but he's beyond the material modes. And when he leaves his body, he will go to the spiritual world.
But in that position that he is in, so if you're saying that the three modes don't affect him, or he's not, I mean, he's all wiped out now. It's beyond material nature.
No. It's like.
I'm thinking of Prabhupada as well. For
Yes, I was going to say, he looks like a normal person, and yet he's beyond the modes of material nature. So it's like, you have, you're given an immunity from prosecution by the three modes, So, you behave your normal way, and yet you have that immunity. Of course, you do what you have to do, your prescribed duties in life, whatever you are doing, but the modes are not affecting.
No, not affecting. But then also it implies that, I think you mentioned earlier in your talk, that you cannot overcome modes of nature, the three modes of nature, by your own will. It's got to be Krishna, this is the control of the three modes. So I imagine that if that's the case, and as it is, if you've surrendered to Krishna as you have surrendered maybe in the transcendental mode, then Krishna won't let you affect those three modes as well, because you've surrendered. Right?
Yes.
So
You have to have surrendered to be on that platform. You have to have surrendered to be on that platform.
And that's when Krishna's modes won't apply.
Yes.
It's a long way for me. Thank you, Guru.
Hare Krishna.
That's why Prabhupada, he stressed sadhana, rising early in the morning. Early rising in the morning is important. That's the time when we are chanting, singing the deity, reciting prayers, hearing Bhagavatam class, makes you strong spiritually.
Because the mode of goodness is prominent in the mornings. I mean, as I've said in my talk, that you're all here because at the moment you are all operating in the mode of goodness. You have certain desire to be here. It's a spiritual desire. That is a function of the mode of goodness. Of course, what you do outside is a different matter, but at this moment in time, you are operating in the mode of goodness. That's predominant. And that is the mode that we want to cultivate as much as possible throughout our lives. In that way, you, in your last moments, you will be able to think of Krishna. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to think of Krishna.
But the fact that you are in mode of goodness and you are coming here for this talk,
Absolutely.
To bring you here.
Nothing happens by Krishna's mercy.
To transform your world into goodness.
Yes.
To bring you here.
Yes.
That's mercy. Yeah.
But we need to cultivate that more. That's the point. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Granthrat Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Manchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
We can probably just be here because they're going to use it.
Thank you so much for helping.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnava Vangsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathannitam Tang Sajivam Sadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakha Nitansham Bhajasi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Bhajasi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Bhajate Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
श्री राधा कपिलानंद की जय, श्री सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान की जय, श्री गौरनिताय की जय, श्री लीला प्रभुपाद की जय।
Kiva Jayo Jayo Gora Chandere Arati Ko Sobha Kiva Jayo Jayo Gora Chandere Arati Ko Sobha Janavitatavane Jagamanalobha Janavitatavane Jagamanalobha Dakin Nitai Chan Bame Gadadara Dakin Nitai Chan Bame Gadadara Nikate Advaita Shini Vasa Chatradhara Nikate Advaita Shrini Vasa Chatradhara Bosi Jate Gaurachan Ratna Simbasane Bosi Jate Gaurachan Ratna Simbasane Arati Korena Brahma Adi Devagane Arati korena Brahma Adi Devagane Narahari Adi Kori Chamar Dhulaya Narahari Adi Kori Chamar Dhulaya Sanjaya Mukunda Basuri Ghosadigaya Sanjaya Mukunda Basuri Ghosadigaya Shankha baje ghanta baje baje kartala Shankha